Hello and welcome to Focus on Fantasy Romance, a weekly podcast where we talk about books, genre, industry, and our geeky lives. And we're nowhere near professional, so bear with me here while we get our bearings. I'm Elle Klaus, I'm your host. I am joined by A.R. DeClerc. Say hi. She's waving. And, and Paulina Woods. Thumbs up from Paulina. And today we're doing a book chat, so we all decided to read the same book last week, and now we're going to discuss it on air. We chose The Last Necromancer by C.J. Archer. I will hold up the cover so you can see if you're watching the video. Let me read the little blurb thingy off of Amazon. Bear with me, I don't actually like reading out loud to people. I don't know. It says, for 5 years, Charlotte Charlie Holloway has lived as a boy in the slums. But when one theft too many gets her arrested, her only means of escape lies with a dead man. Charlie hasn't raised a spirit since she first discovered she could do so 5 years ago. That time, her father banished her. This time, she brings even more trouble upon herself. People are now hunting Charlie all over London, but only one man succeeds in capturing her. Lincoln Fitzroy is the mysterious head of a secret organization on the trail of a madman who needs a necromancer to control his newly made creatures. There was only one known necromancer in the world, Charlotte, but now there appears to be two. Lincoln captures the willful Charlie in hopes the boy will lead him to Charlotte. But what happens when he discovers the boy is in fact the young woman he's been searching for all along? And will she agree to work with the man who held her against her will and for an organization she doesn't trust? Because Lincoln and his ministry might be just as dangerous as the madman they're hunting. So I think I was the last one to actually finish reading this. I'm not a very fast reader, and I liked it. This is actually filed under, I think it's mostly steampunk, historical. There's some fantasy, like it's kind of right where we wanted to focus as far as our genre. I really liked Charlie. I mean, she was a little too stubborn for her good points, but yeah, I like that she stayed true to what she was consistent through the whole thing. And even though there were some points where I was like, oh, don't do that, she was good. She was strong, and in a society where women don't have rights, they can't own property, they have to report to their male relation or husband or whatever. I think that she dealt with the situations fairly well, and the weirdness of being able to raise the dead. Oh, and I probably should have gotten this out of the way a little bit earlier. If you've not read the book, spoiler alert. So we might, if you want to read it, go read it, and then come back and watch the video, because we won't try to, but we might spoil it. Also, our opinions are our own, and we're not responsible for, like, I'm not responsible for what Amy says, and Amy's not responsible for what I say, etc. Because we're all adults. So, Amy, what did you like about it?
So, I'm a fan of punk genre in general, and I was actually happy we chose this book because I love steampunk, and I love the whole idea of the historical alternative history and whatnot. I did enjoy the book. I found it very fast, and it kept my interest the whole time, so I enjoyed that, and I thought the characters were very well drawn, and you are right, they stayed true to themselves pretty much through the whole book, which I liked. I thought there was a pretty good plot line as far as a beginning, a middle, and an end kind of scenario where I didn't get too caught up in a lot of twists and turns that ended up being dead ends or loose ends that weren't tied up. So really enjoyed that. And I we'll go in maybe a little bit later on a couple of the other things that I like more specifically, but I don't want to jump the gun or get on the wrong end of the wagon, so to speak. So I'll pass it on to Paulina and let her say in general what she enjoyed about it or liked the most.
I can honestly say that what I liked the most about it was probably, this was a new to me, you know, steampunk. I really never read it before. It was fast paced. It never slowed down. It kept me, because as a reader, we know what's happening, but the characters don't. So to me, that was kind of cool to be able to say, oh yeah, don't go there, you know, don't do that. I know what's gonna happen. But there was a really amazing, I guess, shock factor that happened, and I was like, really? Oh, coolness. I honestly was looking at it, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna have to read the next one. I need to know what happened. So that's one of my biggest things. If I want to read the next book in the series, I say the author did a pretty good job.
Okay. Yeah, if you're not familiar with steampunk, there were some terms in there. If you're not very familiar with history, there were some terms in there that maybe could have been defined. I really liked. Well, there's Lincoln and Charlie. I really like them as main characters, and I actually really like Gus and Seth as side characters. I thought they were fairly well fleshed out for side characters and funny. And I really like their camaraderie through the whole thing. And yeah, like you said, it was fast-paced, and it caught my attention early on because they open up the book in a scene where she's in a cell dressed as a boy and about to be, well, we'll just say bullied. And someone tries to intervene on her behalf and gets himself killed, and she uses her ability to escape. And I thought that was just a great way to hook somebody into a book, because you're like, what just happened? Why? How can she raise the dead? And I will say that I don't really like, there's a trend for zombie books, which I'm not really, I don't understand. I don't like zombies. Zombies actually freak the hell out of me. So I was glad they didn't really get into too much of the gore factor in the book. Like, the characters reacted how I would react if I saw someone reanimate. They were grossed out and they wanted to kill it dead. I did. So that's we wanted to kind of keep this good, the bad, and the overall overview. I liked Lincoln as a character, but I thought he was kind of high-handed. Like, there's part of me that's kind of conflicted. Like, I understand that as part of the setting, as a male, he would be taught to be high-handed, and because he's the head of the ministry, he has to be high-handed. But then there's the other part of me that's like, I wouldn't tolerate that for a friend of mine. Like, because he's not her father, he's not her guardian, he's not, I don't know. So I'm conflicted. I'm like, this is how it would happen, but I don't like it. I don't know how to explain it. It's just like he was high-handed at points. It's definitely not an alpha male, in my opinion, because he was just not an alpha male like vibe to me. But I don't know. I'm conflicted. What did you think, Amy?
So on that note, I'll pick up on Lincoln, and I know Paulina had a couple things she wanted to say about him as a character as well. I liked Lincoln. Okay, so I'm going to get off subject just a second. So my husband and I just watched Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, right? And of course, everyone always has this real thing for Darcy. And my husband looks at me and like, that guy's such a douche. That's exactly what my husband said to me. He's like, that guy is so stuck up, and he's like, how do these girls like him? That's how I felt about Lincoln. I felt like women of today's society would look at that guy and be like, he is a total jerk. And they wouldn't have anything to do with him. For some reason, Charlie inexplicably is attracted to him. Like, I get the dark and mysterious and powerful attraction, but he's a literal jerk for about 2/3 of the book. So I'm not sure that I really relate to Charlie and her attraction to Lincoln for that reason. Now, I will say I think he's a very interesting character, and I do want to know more about him. So the author did a great job in making him mysterious and interesting, and I think he has layers. He's like the Shrek of the whole thing. He's got layers, and I think we need to peel them back. But I will say I don't quite think we peeled back enough for Charlie's attraction to him to be justified just yet. That was one thing that kind of had me iffy, was that I liked him as a character, but I was not really feeling the whole relationship-y vibe quite yet in the book. So I don't know. Paulina, what did you think?
I don't like him. Like, straight up, he's a type of guy that if he came anywhere near me and started talking, I'd probably punch him in the face. At one point, I was reading the book at work, and I can remember getting mad and like, no, my God, and people looking at me. I'm like, oh, never mind. You don't want to know. I mean, he's really good character, but maybe it's just me. I don't see a romance happening. Like, I mean, like you said, she fell in love with him, but I think it's more like, it felt maybe more like Stockholm Syndrome, like, because he rescued her and he gave her something she hasn't had in a long time, a clean bed, a house, some, food, that she kind of said, so maybe in the next books they kind of, their relationship, or if there is going to be a relationship, kind of manifests a little more, but as of right now, I'm just like, no, I'll read about him because he's an interesting character. He keeps the story moving, but on a romantic level, I don't see it. I would have a shotgun by my bed.
I think it's funny that you mentioned the Stockholm Syndrome, because I think at one point she even points out the irony of the fact that she's attracted to her captor. And I was like, we have a name for that. That's called Stockholm Syndrome. Yeah, and that was one of the things I had a problem with, was that he kind of did put her in a situation where she didn't have any other choice to help them. And I do think that they build, like, there's 6 more. I think there's 6 books total right now in this series. I'm not sure if the author is doing more. There's definitely room for growth between those two. But I don't know. I'd have to know more about Lincoln, because the whole book is written in first person and it's from Charlie's point of view. So I definitely know what's going on in Charlie's head. It's like I don't know what's going on with Lincoln. At the end of the book, there was a point where Charlie wondered if Lincoln was using Gus and Seth as some kind of bait, like that if he would forfeit their lives to reach their end goal. I do like, one of the things I thought was clever was the use of historical characters. I know at one point she was reading a Sherlock Holmes novel, and the mysterious VF, I was like, oh, that's clever. And I thought, was that the big twist that you had commented on? No? Well, then I must not have caught it, because I don't know what you're talking about. But I was like, oh, VF. I'm like, that's clever.
I don't want to give it away, the big twist.
I did spoiler alerts, but we can talk about it after the video.
Fine then. Let's talk about it. They just go read it. Basically, when it came out, whose her father was, I was like, boom, really? Oh my God!
Yeah, I caught it. Like, I called it.
I did. I mean, I do read a lot of books that caters to that. Of course, I love I, Frankenstein, the movie. I love Frankenstein, but it was just, I don't think I was expecting it to be exactly that. You know what I mean? Because I was like, wait, oh my God! And I was just like really excited because I was like, yes, they brought in one of my favorite characters. I'm excited. So yeah, that's also something that really hooked me up. Like, yay! I love Frankenstein.
I'm on the opposite end of that spectrum. I was so disappointed because I thought it was so cliche that BF was Victor Frankenstein. You can't look back in history and find someone else who I don't know. I just felt like it was cliche. Necromancer, dead bodies. First thought that comes to mind is Frankenstein.
But it's
I
his daughter.
felt like it was a little bit unimaginative. So but that's my personal opinion, and I know that a lot of other readers will be super excited that it's Frankenstein because he is such a prominent literary character. I just am of more subtle, I guess, tie-ins to literary, but I mean, I guess it makes sense because, you know, the whole Frankenstein's and needs souls to animate the bodies and blah, blah, blah. I get that, and I thought it was a clever way to make use of a necromancer other than the zombie phenomenon, and it was kind of a new take on a zombie, I guess. So, you know, it's not the warm bodies, it's not the Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies, it's not The Walking Dead. It's a totally different take. So that was pretty clever, but I felt let down by the author a little bit because her imagination was pretty good, and then I felt like she kind of took the easy way out and picked Victor Frankenstein. But that's my personal opinion. I guess I'm a little picky or snobby. I don't know. But I did enjoy it, and it was a surprise to me that Frankenstein was her father. When they started alluding to the fact that the vicar was not her father, I started to have an inkling that it might be Frankenstein. Then I started to wonder if, like, Lincoln was her secret brother. Are we going to find that out? Is this a Shadowhunters thing where they think they're brother and sister so they can't be together? Like, I went through all the scenarios, and then I was a little surprised that Victor Frankenstein was her father. So, yeah, that part was a little bit of a surprise to me. So, yeah, kudos on that.
One thing I was a little worried about, and I'm so glad the author didn't go there. You know those romance storylines where the woman dresses like a boy to hide her identity, and the male lead is like when she confesses she's a woman, he's like, oh, I somehow knew, and I was always attracted to you. And like, when you thought he was a boy? Like, I'm so glad the author did not go there, that like he found out that she was a woman, and he's like, oh, then my attraction is justified because you're actually a woman, but I was attracted to you as a boy. I'm like, oh, you're not gonna. So happy you didn't go there.
Okay, on that note, the side characters were amazing. What were the two guys' names? I would have to look back.
Seth and Gus.
God, yes, I love them. Hands down, they were like Curly and Moe without they were so funny, and they made me laugh. I was like, oh my God, I hope they stay through the whole series. I love them that much. They're amazing little side characters.
Yeah, I think they have a lot of potential to help the whole series, and yeah, I want to read the next one or the next few and see where it goes. I don't think that this one can actually be classified as a romance. I mean, there's elements there, and there's definitely potential, but they don't end up together in a romantic sense at the end of the book. But I do like that the Charlie was able to be like, hey, I keep getting in these awful situations. I want to be able to defend myself. I want to be able to kick some ass, and not just rely on somebody dying and taking care of, using my powers. I really, really like that because, yeah, I mean, she's a small woman. She's a petite woman. She's going to be easily overpowered, but if she's actually taking an active role and being able to defend herself, I'm like, yeah, she can be pretty kick-ass because she's going to be a necromancer, and she can also kick you in the face.
I'm going to double back for a second to Lincoln, and this just came to me when you were talking about her being a small woman who needed to be able to defend herself, because there was a part in the book that really ticked me off, and I was actually at that point I was ready to just write Lincoln off as a waste of space, because when he paid the guy to scare her after he dropped her off in Whitechapel, that really ticked me off. And then he had the gall to kill the guy for what he paid him to do. So I thought that was really a jackass move. And if I was her, I probably would have racked him real good and left him standing there. And I probably probably would have found, because he obviously just stabbed you in the back, and now you're going to all of a sudden trust him. That part I did not like. I thought there is no motivation that justifies action. So that really ticked me off, and I felt like a little bit like Elle might have said before, or Paulina, I can't remember which one of you it was. You didn't like the fact that he basically, she felt a little bit beholden to him because he gave her a bed and a house and food and all these things that she hadn't had for a while. At the same time, I felt like you don't owe him anything, and you say he certainly has no right to pay somebody to attack you. And then you're supposed to say, oh, thanks for showing me the error of my ways. Like, I did not agree with that turn of events whatsoever. I thought if she's willed and as smart as she's written to be, she probably would have stabbed him with his own sword at that point and left him bleeding in the street, because that was a really dick move. But I hope he is justified later on, and I hope that his harsh upbringing is mentioned a few times, and I hope that it's not really an excuse for him being a total deal-weed. I hope it gives us a little better insight later throughout the series onto some of the way he thinks about things, because I certainly didn't agree with that. As for Seth and Gus, you guys, I think they're absolutely fabulous characters. I found myself wanting Charlie to go with Seth, and kind of leave Lincoln in the background a little bit. I'm that reader that's always looking for a romantic connection between characters, even if it's not a romance novel. I'm that person that's like, oh, these two people get together and they'd make a really good couple. And that's kind of how I felt about Charlie and Gus, or Charlie and Seth. Right, no fraternizing was mentioned in our chat, but I don't know. She described Seth as like extremely good looking, and I felt like, honey, you'd be smarter to go with Seth because he seemed a much nicer person than Lincoln. So I don't know. I found myself, after that whole scene in Whitechapel, I found myself disliking Lincoln, and I'm not sure. I don't know what the author's motivation was. Were we supposed to distrust him? Or not, but I certainly found myself not liking him after that. So if that was her goal after that scene, was for me to not trust him or not like him, I think she did a good job.
Okay, going back to that scene, because you kind of reminded me, I don't understand how she lived on the streets for 5 years. She was in a house for, what was it, like a day or two or something like that, but she couldn't survive out on the streets again. Like, I'm sitting there like, but wouldn't you know how to get clothes, how to hide yourself, how to, find food? Even if it was the worst food and shelter, you would still have that ability to enter back into the slums. You haven't been gone that long. So that was one of the things I was kind of upset about. I read that part really fast. I mean, I read it, but I was just like, oh, come on. You should know this. If like, I've lived in my car before. If I have to go live back in my car, it's been 10 years. I still kind of know what to do, how to park, where to go. And it just seems like in 2 days' time or a day's time, however long she was out off the street, she forgot everything. I was just like, but so your younger girl self knew how to survive, but your older woman self doesn't? So that part right there kind of made me go, no, because you know what to do.
Well, I think that she was doing, like, she hid and was going to sleep under a bridge, and if Lincoln hadn't hired that guy to attack her, I think she would have been fine. I think, if I remember the scene right, she wasn't able to find boys' clothes because it had been raining, so there was nothing on the line. And so that was the part that I had a problem with, because he did exactly what she wanted him to do. He let her go, but then he turned around and hired somebody to scare her into coming back, and I'm just like, in that society where if you had a title and wealth, you could kind of get away with almost whatever you wanted to. That's kind of how he was expected to behave, if he couldn't convince her, he was going to scare her, and that's why I had a hard time. And like, historically, that's the way he he could have acted, or it would have been excusable in that society, but he was still a dick. So, yeah. And he didn't confess that he hired that person to scare her until the very end. And I was like, where is your outrage? I mean, she slaps him, and he lets her slap him, but I'm like, why aren't you more pissed off? You know?
I honestly would have figured it out under the bridge when he found her. You know what I mean? It seems to me like she should have been smart enough to put the pieces together that he hired her, because even before they said it in the book, I knew he had hired that guy. I was just like, you couldn't, I don't know. I mean, I know it's to move the book forward, and I think it did a good job, but I was just like, put two and two together. No, he did it. I would have slapped him under the bridge.
I didn't actually put two and two together. And maybe, when he said that he followed her, I was like, okay, he followed her, and then some ruffian showed up, because in that society it wasn't considered a crime to take advantage of a woman. So I honestly didn't put two and two together. I was like, oh, he followed her. And like, I know in his mind he was thinking, well, she's not in any danger because I'm right here. But then, like, at the end of the book, he hired that guy, and then he killed him. And I'm like, oh, you're a real champion there. So I think that in later books he can probably redeem himself, and we'll learn a little bit more about his character, because I do know that he's probably had to make a lot of hard decisions being the minister of the Office of, what is it, Curiosities? But yeah, like I said, I just felt that he was really high-handed, and as a female lead, I wouldn't have put up with it. Like, as soon as I was like, oh, you hired that guy to rough me up, I don't like you anymore. But that's just me. I mean, I'm also living in the 21st century where I can vote and own property, and, you know.
But overall, honestly, I'm gonna go. Like, I'm already planning it. You know, I plan out which books I'm gonna read so I can get them. I'm gonna finish out the series just because I want to see where it goes. I want to see what happens. So this is a series that I'm looking forward to, as long as he stops being a dick. Kind of.
I agree.
A little bit.
I think I'll finish the series. I want to see a character arc for Lincoln. He's very interesting. He has that dark and mysterious past, and the real angsty anti-hero thing going on, which I always love a good bad boy scenario, so that keeps me coming back. I like Charlotte. I want to know, the world building I thought was pretty good. I thought she did a pretty good job of, describing London at the time, and it didn't require too much changing of, history or the way things were done. She stuck pretty much to historical, accuracy as far as I know. I'm not a historian, but would like to know what other curiosities are they investigating. I'm hoping they get into that more as the book goes along. I want to know more about the powers, like her necromancy. Where does it come from? How did she get it? Because I'm that person that always wants to know the hows and whys. So I hope that as the series progresses, we learn a little more. We get to see the kingdom more in depth. I think for a series starter, it's a pretty good place to start. I thought it was a little short, and I think that the plot moved really fast, which is good, but it's also bad because I didn't want it to stop. You know what I mean? Like, I wanted it to keep going. And then I felt, oh, Victor's dead, the end, blah, blah, blah. It was over. I thought the action part was over really fast. But I think that for a series starter, it kept me hooked, so I'm definitely going to move on. So I think that's probably a good thing. And then, I'm just that fussy reader that always wants more and more and more. I want like a 400-page Sherilyn Kenyon novel that, goes 300,000 years in the past, 3 days since, just because I like that. But I think for most readers, they're going to enjoy it, and it's going to be fast-paced and keep their attention. And I hope it brings people to the punk genre if they like it and they are interested in it, that maybe they find other things like it to read. So that was my overall opinion of it.
Sorry, I've got a 3-year-old refusing to go to bed. So, like I said, I'm a really slow reader. I don't have a lot of time to read. I read on my breaks at the EDJ. I'm definitely curious to see what goes on, so I might pick up the next one and see if it carries through with my assumptions as far as where the relationship and whatnot is going to go. I definitely think if you like steampunk, that this is a great addition to your to-be read list, or if you want to read it right away, that's fine. And it's not, like I said, it's not a classic romance, so you're not going to be beat over the head with the standard tropes, which is sometimes really nice because there is kind of a formula that some authors fall into, and it's nice to get a good change of pace and see character types that you're just not used to seeing as the lead. And so I really liked it. I thought the style was good. I liked the characterization. I liked the world building. I did like the inclusion of what would have been back then pop culture references, and now they're like classics. And even though I called some of the plot developments, where did Paulina go? I called some of the plot developments, I was surprised with some other things, and I'm actually pretty good at calling things as far as storylines, so I like it when I get surprised. What did you think, Paulina? You have to unmute yourself.
Sorry, my computer was getting ready to die. I had to run and go get my plug. I forgot I didn't plug it in last night. Overall, really good book. First time reading anything steampunk that I know of, actually. I kind of steered clear of it. Now I'm just like, ooh, maybe I should, expand into steampunk. More authors to read. I like the fast pace. I'm sorry, Amy. I like the length. It was perfect. It took me, I don't know, like if I put all of it together, it took me like 2.5 hours to read. So I liked it. Like I said, I want to see more development on Lincoln. I want to see her become more of a woman without being a woman. Like, oh, be more of a woman. I want to see the two side characters, Gus and Mac and Cheese and Gus and Seth. I want to see them, develop a little bit more. Also, Lady, sheesh, his ex-romance, Lady, anybody? Can't remember her name?
No, I can't.
Huh?
I can't remember her name.
Yeah, Lady. Okay, I want to see her develop a little more too. Only because, she seems interesting. She seems like hard ass, but kind of like, soft. She has a soft spot for Lincoln, and I want to see what happens there if the romance or whatever you want to call that develops between Charlie and Lincoln. I want to see what happens with her. Like, is she gonna step back? Is she become a rival? So, I mean, it left questions open, but it closed out the chapter of, this chapter didn't leave me going, oh my God, why didn't you answer this question? So, yeah, good read. I think it's a good first book into steampunk for me anyway.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I write steampunk, so I'll send you some of mine if you want more. So I think we're coming up 10 minutes top of the hour. And I have restless children that don't want to stay in bed. So I think we're going to wrap things up unless anyone has anything else to add. I do want to say that I like that as soon as Charlie was discovered as a girl, she didn't turn around and embrace what the traditional feminine role was. Like, she didn't turn into another Lady Hawthorne. I like that. And that she burned her corset. I like that a lot. Because those things, oh goodness, they're not healthy if you wear them wrong and they're uncomfortable, and yeah. I mean, there's a lot of subtle humor which I really enjoyed. But I've also got a very dry, sarcastic sense of humor myself, so I was like, yeah, I would have burned the corset too.
You know what's funny is I'm getting ready to spend almost $400 on an amazing corset for Halloween. So I'm just like, but I don't wear it all the time, and it's not like I have to wear it. So I think there's a difference.
There is a difference, because they had to wear one every day, and you're wearing it for a day. There's a big difference.
Technically, I wear it a little bit more than that. I don't have my good one; it broke. But usually, if I do it right, I'll wear it for 5 days. I'll wear it for 5 days, have it 2 days off. Yes, I'm weird.
Hey,
I will tell you though, on the subject of being a proper Victorian lady in steampunk, I act myself usually admiring the characters who can both wear the corset and carry the parasol and also kick ass at the same time and still like not get their gloves dirty. Like sometimes those characters who can maintain their, you know, proper Britishness are more interesting to me than the ones who are like, I do what I want, you know. I flaunt all societal etiquette and nobody cares because my author can write me however she wants. But sometimes those ones that are still sticklers for the way things should be make me laugh a little bit more than the people who are brash and wild and throw caution to the wind and burn their coats and their corsets. So I don't know. Sometimes I think we take the wild and wacky heroine a little too far. Sometimes.
As a corset wearer, I am sorry to say this, but half the things that Charlie does when she's a woman, and like the long walks and the running and you can't do it in a corset. I wore them to work, and you have to basically, this is how you breathe. You breathe like this. You breathe from the top of your chest. You move your shoulders. You have to breathe like this. So you try to run when only getting this much air in your lungs. Yeah, so if I read a book where a girl's running and in a corset, I'm like, yeah, bitch, you're not doing that right. Your corset's not on. So, like, that's the only thing is, like, you have to make it a little, if she's going to be more athletic, she has to be a little bit more, you can't wear a corset the way they did. They laced them as tight as my sister wears them because she waist trains. Her waist is like this, you know? So, I mean, I look at my sister sometimes like, how do you breathe? She's all very carefully. I'm like, yeah, well, you're going to die carefully breathing. So, I mean, that's one thing they have to do, watch out for. If you're going to have an active character, you got to kind of, you know, do away with the corset or make it not so. Yes, that's why they're fainted. But you can't run and fight with your parasol if you're fainted. So, I don't know.
Yeah, I like that Charlie didn't change, though. Like, I understand that, like, I think that Lady Hawthorne can be a very formidable foe if she actually did learn how to fight in her corsets, and she probably learned how to do fanning, which you can fight with your fan, and caping and whatnot. But Charlie didn't know any of that, so Charlie's sticking with what she knows, which is sneaking and running around, and that involves no corset. So that's why I liked that she didn't turn around and get rid of everything that she learned on the streets to embrace the life of like a lady's maid or whatever, because it was all unfamiliar to her. Why are you laughing at me, Paulina? Or is your dog farting again?
I'm laughing because it looks like you're reading the comments to the side, and you're just like,
I'm trying.
Like, what are you guys talking about?
Yeah, what are you talking about?
Poorly enchiladas.
We're just arguing corsets.
Oh my goodness. I've never worn one.
Oh my God, they're uncomfortable, I have to say that, but they make you look amazing. Like, if you see my Halloween costume from last year, amazing. Like, seriously, my waist went in like 4 inches, my boobs went up to here. Like, My butt looked amazing. I was like, damn. You know, but again, hard to breathe. So, I mean, that's the only bad thing about him.
Right, no fighting.
No fighting, no sex, no breathing, no eating, don't pee. Did I say don't breathe? The first time my sister laced me up in one, she literally, I was like, I can't breathe. She goes, breathe with your shoulders. I was like, my lungs aren't in my shoulders. She's like, well, they will be. I'm like, thanks. So, aw. You had to say hi?
Yeah, that's my oldest.
Can you
Yes,
see? Let me see. Hold on. This is me in Halloween. Hold on.
Yeah, I see that picture.
See how far my waist went in?
Mm-hmm.
You can't breathe, and I didn't pee that night or drink. I was dehydrated.
Yeah, I always wondered, like, how long did it go to the chamber pot if you had to pull down 4 pairs of pantaloons and pull up 3 petticoats and a chemise and everything's tucked up in your corset? Like,
they didn't, Amy. If you look at history, you ever see those shaped things like this? The women used to wear it between their legs, and they used to stand there and pee. And after the whole night was over, and when they took off their clothes, their maids would take out their pee cup. They literally had pee cups.
Yeah, as if Victorian people didn't stink bad enough as it was back then. Oh, you smell like rose water and pee.
I had to go look it up because I was like, how do you pee in that? I mean, I'm sitting there going, I'm sitting on the toilet like this, on the walls. I'm like, how did they do this? And I was like, oh, I'm not wearing that to work. I could just see the problems there. But it was like little U-shaped. It looked like, I don't know, and it went from the front of the lady to almost to the back. And it was like a deep cup. That's why they walked slowly, too. They were clenching it between their legs. And God forbid, don't drop it. I'm like, oh, my God. That's why I have trouble with romance from that time. Take a shower first. You just had a pee cup down there. Ugh. They're like, oh, baby, I just know. So now you know how they would pee. You're welcome.
Yeah, this is an interesting change of topic.
C.J. Archer, did you know this is how people peed in Victorian times? Let us know.
I don't know if it was Victorian or a little before or a little after. I just know it was a time when they had corsets and they couldn't sit down. I have to look it up exactly what time period it was, you know. And I was like, ew, that's gross. And their long sticks on their fan was to scratch the lice in their hair. For women's rights. Ugh. I'm sorry. That's why I have trouble reading romance from men.
Today is actually Women's Equality Day.
Yes, and my boyfriend would reenact Deadpool. I was upset. If you haven't seen the movie, you don't know what I'm talking about.
No, I've seen it. I just didn't hear you.
I said my boyfriend wouldn't reenact Deadpool with me. Remember that whole trial? Oh, yeah. I was like, hey, honey, it's what? He's all, shut up. So apparently that didn't work out for me.
Oh, well, maybe next year.
Well, I can say this has been an interesting book chat. We have had a lot of very good offshoot discussions about this. We'll have to see if the next one is this lively and entertaining.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that anyone that's going to be a long-time listener to this show is going to realize that we're going to get off topic, we're going to talk about ridiculous stuff, and then we are, like, in no way professional podcasters. We're just here to have fun.
And talk about peacups.
Well, you can talk about peacups.
And lice
this is important stuff. Authors need to know this stuff. Because
or the fact that
he can't go reaching up under the skirts.
I'm sorry if a woman
that would be hilarious.
My whole funny thing is, like, at least the Scottish men were, like, washed off before they went in the house. They would splash under their, kilt. But, like, you see, like, I was riding and fighting, and then the woman's like, oh, yay! She throws herself at him, and then you see them having sex. You're like, ma'am, excuse me. So he's been riding for 2 weeks, didn't take a shower, ran in, and you, oh, God, that's gross. But then again, I guess she hasn't took a shower in 2 weeks either, so they're just mixing dirt.
Yeah, hygiene wasn't that big of a deal back then,
Yeah.
I guess.
Actually, I thought Charlie took a lot of baths in this book.
Yeah, she did.
Comparatively. Yeah. Comparatively, I thought she got pretty clean quite a bit in this book. I'm like...
So we'll give the author hand claps for taking baths. Good job.
Yeah. Way to go for hygiene. 2 thumbs up.
Okay, I think we need to wrap it up now. We're just getting ridiculous. Okay, so this has been...
So, let's wrap it up.
Yeah, this has been episode 3 of Focus on Fantasy Romance. We will be back next week with a mixer. I believe our topic of discussion is inappropriate comments that we've received as romance writers. That should be fun. If you want to check us out, we have a blog at focusonfantasyromance.wordpress.com. We also have a Facebook page and a YouTube channel, so I think it's good practice to say like us and follow, and hopefully we'll see you next week. See you later.